Good morning, everyone. Welcome to worship this morning on not a shabby day. Not a shabby day at all. Paul asked me earlier this morning, is it going to rain today? And I pulled up the hourly forecast. I said, no, until I rolled out to about 3 o'clock. I said, yeah, maybe. Maybe we'll get a little bit. We'll see what happens. So anyway, it's a good day to worship, and we have coffee afterwards. Our order of worship today is up in front of you. We have a couple songs we're going to sing. The first one I'll tell you about when we get to it. It starts quickly, so you've got to be ready to go. We'll go with that. Other than that, are there any announcements that we should address right away this morning, or we can catch them at the end of the service? Okay. So here we go. And so this morning, and by now you're used to doing this centering thing, this reflection thing, but I want to tell you that we begin with a time of centering because it's a way to be fully open and to kind of get yourself open to the presence of a spirit that is with us this morning. And so once again, as I always do, I ask you to find yourself very comfortable. If you want to feel like you are open, if you want to close your eyes, you're welcome to do so. For about 40 seconds, let's prepare ourselves individually. Our spirits are sometimes on a summertime schedule. We change things around in our lives to accommodate the new activities, find a little bit of time to rest, time to visit family, to catch up with friends, to do some traveling, maybe some leisure time that we can enjoy. Let's remember this morning that in everything we do, that God is with us. And even though we find times of frustration and maybe anger and maybe grief, that He is always going to be with us. The plans we have so carefully crafted maybe won't work out. We ask God to always be with us on all our journeys, guiding our lives and our steps, pouring love and mercy upon us. So let's prepare to serve God in all that we do. Let's turn together for a call to worship. God calls us together to worship this morning. Work and play within the world. God gathers us so that we may give thanks for creation's goodness, for the strength to labor, for the wisdom to relax. From amidst our friends and family, God brings us here to participate in a community of faith, Christ's people, a new family. From everyday talk and chatter, God invites us to speak in truth from the depths of heart and mind, and to pray freely. Let us heed God's call and rejoice in what God enables. All right, so we're going to sing this song. This is the Bible School version of I Sing the Mighty Power of God. Here's the deal with this one. Be ready. Because when it starts, there's like this little gap of time, and then it is go time. And so there's no introduction. It is time to go. And I can't tell you when it is. You're just going to have to figure it out. Are you ready? Here we go. There's no greater power than the power of our God. There's no greater power than the power of our God. I see the mighty power of God. All right, well done. There we go. Going to be one of those days you kind of feel it already, can't you? Things don't quite work. So we have two readings this morning. The first one from the Psalms. We don't read the Psalms often, but this one works out really, really well. The 119th Psalm, which happens to be the longest book in the Bible, but we're not reading all of it. And the second one from the Gospel of Matthew, beginning then with Psalms, the 119th chapter. By your words I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path. I've committed myself, and I'll never turn back from living by your righteous order. Everything is falling apart on me, God. Put me together again with your word. Adorn me with your finest sayings, God. Teach me your holy rules. My life is as close as my own hands, but I don't forget what you have revealed. The wicked do their best to throw me off track, but I don't swerve an inch off your course or from your course. I inherited your book on living. It's mine forever. What a gift. And how happy it makes me. I concentrate on doing exactly what you say. I always have, and I always will. And then from the Gospel of Matthew, this is the 13th chapter. And what I love about this one is you know that Jesus talks in parables all the time. People ask Jesus questions. He would never answer them with a straight answer. He used these parables all the time. Why I like this one is you're going to hear as we get farther into it that his disciples are finally saying, hey, why are you always using these stories to make your point? And he explains it to them. And so, the 13th chapter of Matthew, beginning with verse 1. That day, Jesus went out of the house and sat down beside the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he climbed into a boat and he sat down. The whole crowd was standing on the shore. He said many things to them in parables. A farmer went out to scatter seed. As he was scattering seed, some fell on the path and birds came and ate it. Other seed fell on rocky ground where the soil was shallow. They sprouted immediately because the soil wasn't deep. But when the sun came up, it scorched the plants, and they dried up because they had no roots. Other seed fell among thorny plants. The thorny plants grew and choked them. Other seed fell on good ground and bore fruit. In one case, a yield of 100 to 1. In another case, a yield of 60 to 1. And in another case, a yield of 30 to 1. Everyone who has ears should pay attention. Jesus' disciples came and said to him, why do you use parables when you speak to the crowds? Jesus replied, because they haven't received the secrets of the kingdom of heaven but you have. And for those who have will receive more, and they will have more than enough. But as for those who don't have, even a little they have will be taken away from them. That is why I speak to the crowds in parables. Although they see, they don't really see. And all they hear, they don't really hear or understand. What Isaiah prophesied is becoming completely true for them. You will hear, to be sure, but never understand, and you will certainly see, but never recognize what you are seeing. For this people's senses have been calloused, and they've become hard of hearing, and they've shut their eyes, so that they won't see with their eyes, or hear with their ears, or understand with their minds, and change their hearts and lives, that I may heal them. So then Jesus is saying again, happy are your eyes because they see. Happy are your ears because they hear. I assure you that many prophets and righteous people wanted to see what you see and hear what you hear, but they didn't. So, it's almost hard to understand or almost hard to believe that it's time to go back to school. A lot of the schools that I'm aware of are starting this coming week. Some of them in the area, I know for Harrisburg, I think they started last Thursday? Thursday. And so they got a kind of a running start with thing too. So it's time to go back to school. And that's always kind of an exciting time, especially for the students that I think are with us today. They're excited. It's time to go back to school. I can't wait. I got my backpack. Chase, do you have your backpack ready for the first day of school? Yeah. You gonna get your picture taken too? All right, I like it. Thank you. I can't wait to see that one. All right, so you get your backpack. In fact, I had my pink backpack ready to go, and I left it on the counter, and I just remembered it a couple minutes ago as I was standing up here. So I can't call Paula and say, bring it. But in the backpack, you're going to find things like pencils and notebooks and colored pencils, crayons, glue sticks, some Kleenex, hand sanitizer, other stuff. Because it's time to go back to school, because it's an exciting time with these students that are with us today. They can't wait to get back in the classroom, to crack open those books, to start solving problems, to start going through things and just absorbing as much information as possible. Right? I'm not getting a lot of respect. They do, because that's part of it. And I remember that. I remember the whole thing, except that if there's one thing I love about learning, it's solving problems. I love math. Just absolutely love math. I love things that have logic to it. I really like science. I like things where you can get to an answer. But a lot of you already know me really well right now, that you know that not only do I accept the answer, I want to know why that's the answer. I need to know why. And that's part of some of the ways that teaching has changed. Kids are starting to do something we call critical thinking, where they're starting to look for the reason why there is an answer to this thing or what the answer is. And some of the parents that are my age as grandparents, or some of the parents going, that's not how we did it. I don't understand what they're doing. Because you can go back to the old reading and writing and arithmetic, and we can go through all those things again. A lot of that was just memorizing what the answers were. But that just isn't giving you the tools that you really, really, really need. Critical thinking. Why is that the answer? How did I come up with that answer? I had a wonderful opportunity. This goes back several years ago, because the kids that I went to see are now in their 30s, or right at 30. And I went to a science fair, 5th grade science fair. I got to walk around because I'm that guy. I always ask them, tell me about your project. And if they would say, it's a volcano, I'd say, good, tell me how it works. Explain your work here. And it worked out really well, because there actually was a young man with a volcano. And when I asked him to explain it to me, he explained it quite well. That he said, inside, underground, there's this molten rock that is hot, and it's magma, and as it heats up, eventually there's going to be so much pressure that it's going to break through to the surface, and it comes out of a volcano as lava, And he had a little thing with some food coloring and some baking soda and some vinegar, and he made it happen for me. That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I ran into a couple of young men that put together their own wind tunnel. And they had plexiglass. They built it out of wood with plexiglass on one side, and they had this really powerful fan. Then they put in what looked like an airplane wing. And they had wires so they could change the pitch of the wing. And they explained to me that as they changed the pitch, you could see it rise just a little bit, even though there's wires on it. And change it again, it would go down. And they explained to me that as wind speeds go across the wing and you alter that, it causes the lift, which makes airplanes go up, or it causes it to bring back down again. Very impressive. Very impressive. There are a couple of girls that have built this cool little thing that, for all practical purposes, I will call it a guitar or an ice cream bucket. Because they had these plastic pails that weren't the 5-quart ones, and they ran rubber bands across them. And they had 2 of them. And one was hollow, and one had a towel stuffed into it. And the one that was hollow, as they would play the rubber bands, you could hear the sound really, really well. And they got to the point where they'd stretch them just right so it made different sounds, which I was really impressed with. And then the other one, they'd pluck it and the sound wasn't as good. And they explained to me because sound is really energy, and the environment around it will determine how well or how little you can hear what it is. And then they started explaining acoustics to me, and I said, thank you very much, and went on. But my favorite one was 2 girls that were trying to explain static electricity. And they had a wall built on plywood and carpet on it. One of the dads had done it for them. And they had balloons blown up. And they would take a balloon and stick it up against the carpeted wall, and it would just fall down. And then they would take it and they'd rub it on the head, actually had me do it, and then stick it up on the wall, and it stuck. I said, that is really cool. They said, it was static electricity. I said, okay, explain it to me. And the one girl started with, well, it happens when the things, it changes the, and the other girl looked at me and said, look, it just works, okay? Fine. It works for me. It works for me. When Jesus taught, he always spoke in these parables. He always wanted to get people to think. He never gave them answers. Because he wanted people to think in a whole different way. In our reading today, I'm going to go into this a little bit more. He even talked about the reason I got to do this is because people don't understand what I'm talking about. You do, disciples, because you've been with me for a while, and you've seen everything, and you've heard everything that I have done. But most of these people haven't, and they're not going to get it, because it's not going to make sense to them. Oh, last month, we went on our mission trip. And there's nothing more fun than to see one person from confirmation class here today. Some of you are parents of confirmation kids, and you know that sometimes your children would come home from confirmation class and they said their brain actually hurt because Rich won't answer anything. He just keeps asking more questions and more questions and more questions all the time. Because what I really love to do is to get those brains thinking, get into some of that critical thinking, and maybe get into what isn't obvious is the answer. And what is obvious is in your way. And we play games all the time. We had some, I'm not even going to get into them right now, but we did a game one night, and it drove them crazy until all of a sudden somebody figured it out. And once they figured it out, then it started to tumble together, and it didn't take long before everybody had the answer. And the next night, I threw something else at them, and they're thinking, what are you doing to us here? But in a little bit, suddenly somebody got it. And as they said it, and I said it again, and some of the other adults who picked up on it, and the kids started to pick up on it too, and they got it again. The third night, I came back with another one that was not the obvious. You hold something up, and they think that's what you're talking about, but that wasn't at all what I was talking about, and I never told them this is what I'm talking about. Again, someday, when we got lots of time, I'll play these games with some of you. And they caught on pretty quickly with that one. The next day, I threw some more at them, And rather than taking 5 or 10 minutes, it started to take about 30 seconds. Why? Because they realized that what they heard and what they had visualized in their head was not the answer. That there was something else involved, something he said, or something he did as he was putting this whole thing together is the trip on this thing. And they got it. And it got to the point where I just quit doing it because I'd throw it out there and before long somebody'd say, well, what about this? Yep, you got it. You got it. So that was good. That was good because they caught on to the fact that there is things out there that we have so trained our minds to think that that's what we think things are. That's how we think things go. And we become that way. And I think the people back in Jesus' time were the same way. They had been living by the laws of the Old Testament, living by the laws written in the Torah for so long and been told so many things by all the religious leaders that they believed that's exactly how we do things. And that's what we run into. For quite a few years, many of you know that I got to spend a lot of time in the world of youth soccer, and was very blessed to be part of a program that I went and spent about a week down in Frisco, Texas, just outside of Dallas. And we were working on a program called the National Youth License, and it was a way to teach coaches how to teach kids that were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old how to play the game. And the old way of doing it is how a lot of us grew up when we knew sports or band or anything else, is you did it, then you did it again, then you did it again, then you did it again, and you went and stood in line, and you went forward until it was your turn to do it, and you did it again, and you got yelled at, so you went to the back of the line, and you started over again. And we came up with something that is nothing new, it's nothing spectacular, and I was the only one at the table without a PhD, so I had no idea what I was doing, but we came up with something, or we used a concept called guided discovery. And guided discovery was this. We would give them a little bit of information, the young kids, and let them go play. And after they played for a little bit and they'd start to struggle with what they were trying to do, then we'd stop it and we'd ask them to solve the problem. Why it's called guided discovery is you would use words that would help them get to what the answer would be. And sometimes somebody would come up with an idea and you'd say, hey, that's great, but let's do that, knowing it's not going to work. But you let them do it anyway because they took ownership in it. One of the fun little things with soccer that you learn after a while, and I love doing it, is you want kids to, just like with basketball, you want them to dribble the ball without looking down at the ball all the time. In soccer, you want it at their feet. And as young kids, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, they want to look down at the ball and see where it is. And they've got coaches yelling at them to weave in and out of cones, which I have probably reffed 500 or 600 soccer games, and I have yet to see cones on the field that the player has to weave in and out of before you can go do anything. So I don't know why we do those, but but it's one of those games you play. We don't want them to look down at the ball. And so we can tell them, you got to look up, you got to look up. They're not going to because they're nervous. And so we turn it into a game and we give them ownership from it. And the game that we turn it into is the old game in the backyard of red light, green light. Sometimes I use a yellow light too, just to kind of spice things up a little bit. Red light, green light. And here's the deal. When I say green light, you dribble the ball around our little area. And when I say red light, you stop and put your foot on top of it. Oh, they got it down. They got it down. Pretty soon, I stopped talking and I started pulling claws, a green one and a red one, out of my pocket and holding that up. And now they can't hear me, but they want to play the game because this is a fun game. But can you guess what's happening as they're looking to see what color I have up now? They're not looking at the ball at all, but they're keeping it under control because it's just a way to do it. And we have to have them walk through the whole thing too, but we don't like doing the really repetitive stuff, the memorizing stuff, and everything else. That's why with the confirmation class that we did, we don't do memorization and stuff here. I don't see the point of doing that. Pick a Bible verse and tell me what it means to you. That's what we want to know. That's what we want to find out. Back in Jesus' time, when he's doing these parables, it would have been so much easier if Jesus could just have given us the answer, or at least a multiple choice question. That we could pick 1, 2, or 3, or 4, and then he could tell us if we were right or wrong. So we go back and do it again. But it wasn't that way. Jesus wanted us to think this thing through. He wanted us to come up with something that made it work for us. And remember, I was talking about how they were into doing things with the Torah and all the laws, and all the religious leaders at the time were telling them, here's how you have a relationship with God. And here came this Jesus and said, got it all wrong. Got it all wrong. There's only 2 things you have to worry about. You've heard me say this about 100 times. Forget those 600 and some laws. Make sure you love God and have a relationship with God, and make sure you love and take care of everybody else. That's good. That's all you need to know. Made the religious leaders go up in arms. And the people that heard this were starting to say, but what does this guy know? And so he had to tell these stories. His stories all the time about what to do and how to get things done. Because it's not like back in the day they got to do a lot of practicing. Go to basketball or baseball or football practice or band practice or chorus or anything else and go through it again and again and again until they had it down, because they had to listen to what they got in church and then try to figure out what this Jesus was telling us all the time. And even if they did have to practice it continually, and this comes into how it applies to us, is we want to be good Christians. We want to do good things in the world. We want to do what God has asked us to do. And we come to church on Sunday mornings, and here we are practicing. We're hearing something. We're singing. We're hearing God's word being read. We're doing praying. We care for one another. If it all works out, a whole bunch of us will sit back and have some coffee and talk some more this morning and go through that whole thing. But we're doing practice. And practice is good. And after a while, you've got to get to a performance sometime where you're never going to know what's going on. That you can accumulate diplomas and degrees and advanced degrees and do all those things that you want to, but until you put it into practice and use your skills in the world and give yourself and share what you have to the world, all that doesn't mean anything. It just means that you have a whole bunch of paper on your wall that you can be proud of, but it's not making a difference. So here we are. Today we had a story about seeds. And the story of the seeds was that you can put your seeds out and your skills and what you're going to give to the world all over the place, but unless you give it to the right place, to the people that need you, and you know that they need you, and you're doing it in the right way with the love that you can give, it's not going to be fruitful, and it's not going to bear what you want it to do. And so you have to not only give what you have, but give it in a way so that it means something, especially if you're going to find people that need your help, and you're going to ask them to do. Why did Jesus talk in parables? People didn't want to hear what he had to say. Because it didn't make sense to them. What do you mean? I've been learning since I was a little kid. I have to obey all these laws, and now you're telling me no, just take care of one another. Make sure you stay close to God. That's it. That's all I have to do. It doesn't make sense. They knew what they knew already, and as Jesus came out and said, do it differently. Do it differently. And I'll tell you what, even today, there are Christians that are self-proclaimed, waving flag Christians in my life that still don't get it. And they want to tell me what I need to believe. And we have to argue about that a little bit. In time, we're going to understand these parables. In time, it's going to make sense to us that what is obvious is maybe not what's right in front of us, but it is there. And we can pick up on it. Maybe what Jesus is doing is kind of like one of those brain teasers. Maybe Jesus has given us the answer, but we have to figure out how to get to it. And I think that's exactly what Jesus was doing. A brain teaser with an answer. And when you get it, you get it. God is still speaking to each one of us today. Are you listening? Amen. Let's sing one more song. You know this one. Do we have any joys or any concerns that we want to share with one another this morning? Anything going on? Anything good? Good news. Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to keep Pastor Kip from Ashbury Methodist Church in Falls first. He also
Okay. Pastor Kip from Ashbury Methodist Church up in Sioux Falls. It's over on Western Avenue. Parents, daughter, and son and their family go to that church. And he lost his brother to COVID yesterday. Any others? Yes?
We have the 50th anniversary this week.
How many?
50.
50? Really? So I understand, Norma, that you could easily be a 50-year bride.
Sure.
However, no, I'm not going to. I was going to make fun of Alan, but he's not here to defend himself. So. Yeah. Well, that's good. Congratulations. That's a huge milestone.
Yeah.
You remember the day yet? Can you remember the day of your wedding?
Oh, certainly.
Yeah?
Yeah. I didn't think he was coming home to get married. He was in the Navy.
Oh, yeah?
He didn't get home till the morning of the wedding.
Oh!
Yeah.
Wow. That's good. Congratulations. Anything else?
Keep all the kids as they start school.
Yeah, kids that are starting school, we're actually going to, within our prayer today, we're going to pray for kids, teachers, parents, everybody. It is. It's kind of a traumatic time. We make fun of it because we know it's still fun. And I know that first day back to school, you get to see your friends and everything, but you get into a routine pretty quick. Knowing that here's my first day of school and I only have 179 days of classroom to go. Then I'm out again for the summer. So yes, we'll do that too. I know a lot of you have asked about, I have shared with you my brother Rod, who's down in San Antonio, has a rough week this week. And he was vented and he was doing pretty well. And but yesterday we found out that it's probably just not going to work. And so some hard decisions are going to have to be made this afternoon by his immediate family. And so we'll see where that goes, and we'll support them with everything we've got. It's really difficult to do because if something does happen, my brother Jim and I really can't leave here because San Antonio, Texas is a real hot spot for COVID right now, and it's best to stay away from places like that. So It's the way it goes sometimes, and we hope that, if nothing else, Rod has a peaceful week, and we'll go from there. Any others? Okay. Let's find ourselves in a time of prayer. Oh God, you who make things new again and again, enliven the thoughts of my mind, revitalize the cells of my body, and cause a fresh outburst of praise to surge in my heart, so that I might taste the life that is truly life this day. You who promise to be with us always, I pray that you would be with our young people as they go to school. Bless their going and their coming. Bless their learning and their playing. Protect them from fear. Please keep them safe. Please give them good friends. You who promise to guide us through the wilderness and the storm, we ask that you make the parents wise when they cannot always clearly see the way forward. Make them brave when they feel afraid. Excuse me. Make them strong in the face of their weakness. Make possible what seems impossible so that they might entrust themselves and their children into your tender care. You who have called and equipped the teachers in our community, we pray for them today. Watch over them, provide for them, guide them, sustain them. May you be their sun and shield so that they might do the work that you have entrusted to them and sense your care in these uncertain times. And you who have called us together in this family, grant us the ability to bear with one another in love. And may the peace of Christ guard our hearts, so that together we might trust your leading and walk in the way of unity that only the Spirit of God can make possible. We pray to you this prayer and the prayer that you gave us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Thy kingdom come. And our will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Some announcements. We have a couple blanks on the September cleaning list. If you could take maybe a look at that thing, we're getting a lot of the same people who are doing it. It's getting done, but if we could kind of share that a little bit, it'd be really, really nice. Same thing with the coffee hour. I believe we have it covered today. I know we have it covered today because the ladies in back were here working their little tails off, getting together these wonderful cookies that I won't tell you the story. I'm going to let Sylvia and Lorna tell you the story behind the cookies, but they are made for church. Yes, they were.
Yeah, they were made by the infant church.
Okay, so they were made by another church group.
I'm not sure what church it is.
Yeah, I don't know what church it is that makes those, but cool. Very nice.
I don't know what store he means because they speak
Secret. They're holy cookies. They're holy cookies because they stay that good, that long. But when I looked up earlier, I saw that we didn't have anybody for next week. We do have somebody for September, first weekend of September up there. And so if we get that covered for next week, it'd be great. Next week, again, we will have worship at 9:30, and we'll do coffee about 10:15, and we'll be right on that today with what we're doing. Are there any other announcements that we should know about going into this week or down the road? No? Okay. All right. Very good. So, as we leave today, we want to remember that God has placed the seed of love and forgiveness in your heart. So go into God's world with joy, telling of the good news of God's abundant, lavish love for all creation. Go to be a witness for all the miraculous possibilities for hope and peace. Amen.